All right, it's time to review some of the main concepts that we saw today. So the main point of today is to get introduced to chapter 1 of the textbook. And the textbook does a great job explaining some of the key aspects, but I'd like to review them with you here so that we can post this on YouTube and so that you can always go back to it if need be. So we began the class with some new information about the three branches of government. The three branches of government are the legislative branch. They make the laws. So here in Canada, we have a bicameral legislative branch, meaning we have two houses in charge of that. We have the lower house, the House of Commons, that is elected by representation by population through a system called first past the post. And there are 338 relatively equal constituencies that the MPs represent. And we have a higher house that in England it was called the House of Lords, but in Canada we call it the Senate. And the purpose of our Senate, the second house in the legislative branch, is to provide a sober second thought and to represent the regions of Canada. So rather than having 338 constituencies attached to the Senate is decided by region. So we have Atlantic region, we have Ontario and Quebec as a region, and we have the West and the North. So some people look at the Senate though and they see a need for reform. They look at the Senate and say it's not that effective. And one of the reasons it's not effective is because it's appointed by Prime Minister. And because therefore the will of the people is not reflected through the selection of the Senate, the senators don't yield any real power. So if they want to be effective, if they want to be equal to the House of Commons, they need to be elected. So there was a triple E agenda in the 1990s by the Reform Party of Canada. Oh, that just died. By the Reform Party of Canada, looking to try to ensure that the Senate could be more effective. The next branch of government is the judicial branch. The judicial branch interprets the laws. So the Prime Minister of Canada appoints Supreme Court judges, and once laws are created, they must be interpreted by the Supreme Court to see if they reflect the spirit of the Constitution. So the Constitution is the ultimate law of the land, and therefore all laws within Canada are subject to the Constitution. And it's up to the judicial branch to interpret the legality of these new laws. Ultimately, it's the executive branch that carries out the new laws. So the executive branch here in Canada is your Prime Minister and Cabinet. Each cabinet has a portfolio, a responsibility, a department of government, a group of bureaucrats that work for them to actually execute or carry out the wishes of these new laws. The three branches of government reflect the ideas of Montesquieu. Montesquieu was a philosopher that argued that if there was no separation of power, we'd be subject to the tyranny of one person who could both or all create, execute, and interpret law. So in Canada, the United States, we try to have some sense of checks and balances, but as we saw today, the United States has a more clear system of checks and balances, the separation of power, because here in Canada, we have many people that are in two branches. That the majority of the executive branch, they're also in the legislative branch. And therefore, Montesquieu would look at that and say that there's some individuals within the Canadian government system that may have an opportunity to act as tyrants. Other things we saw today included, in terms of the Canadian system, we talked about the different political parties and the need for political parties. The idea that political parties make it easier for individuals to understand the mission, vision, values of the candidates so that they can vote with more informed choice, but at the same time that political parties can be an obstacle to democracy because with issues like cabinet solidarity, it seems like at times the elected MPs represent the wishes of their parties even though they may be contrary to the will of their constituents. So today was meant to be an introduction to Chapter 1, and those are the main topics that we looked at today. and tomorrow we'll continue with chapter 1. So I'm going to end the video, and then we're going to talk about gun control.